Greetings, Yarnlings. I'm Steven, also known as KnitFen on Instagram and Ravelry, and you are watching the Mingled Yarncast. But you probably knew that because you clicked the link to come here, so welcome. I'm glad you did. Today, it's going to be a relatively quick episode, I think. I'll be talking about clue number 1 for the Westknits Mystery Knit Along by Stephen West, and it's the only thing I'll be talking about, but I do have quite a bit to say. So we will see what comes of this, yeah? So in the previous episode, I talked about preparing for the knit along, and I showed you the yarns that I'm going to be using, or am using now, I should say. They're from Twisted Ambitions Yarn, and they are gorgeous. I'm going to show you it in just a minute, but I'm giving you just another second or two to change the channel if you don't want any spoilers, because you're going to get plenty of them. So yeah, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Ta-da! Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is clue number 1. Well, actually not entirely finished. I've got 2 more rows of garter stitch to do on the border. But I figured it was done enough that I could show it to you now, and this is the only time that I have to film, so I figured, gonna have to make do. So, yeah, this has been quite the adventure so far, and there's no real good way for me to show this to you yet. Oh, I should say, in case you're wondering about the background, I'm at school. Also, if you hear strange noises, my classroom is on the ground floor. There's probably going to be sirens and horns and all kinds of things in the background. So that's fun. We look forward to that. Okay, so if you have not yet started Clue 1 and you're curious to know a little bit about it, let me tell you something about this construction. It begins, there's 3 parts to part 1. Really, really fascinating. And it begins with, you see the semicircle here? There you go. So you make 3 of these, and they are, you can see that pretty well there. The colors alternate. There are stripes of, it's not garter, what are we calling that? Reverse stockinette, maybe? Something like that, but it creates a bump. And then regular stockinette. So the main color is there with the reverse, and the contrasting color, which is the multicolored yarn, is there in regular stockinette. So the semicircles feature a lot of texture, and let me see if I can, you can kind of see it when I show it to you that way, right? You can see the hills and the ridges and the valleys. Very, very cool, very pretty. You do 3 of these. So it starts, you make 3 separate by themselves. And because I didn't watch too many of the videos or the too many posts on Instagram beforehand, I, for a while, was like, well, what happens next? Because I didn't look forward in the pattern either. I was like, are these going to be sewn together? Are they going to be, I don't know, made into some weird conical shape? I had no idea what to expect. But what actually happens is that once you've got your semicircles done, you connect them with this section of garter stripes. And so it looks similar, but unlike here, where we have our texture again, voila, voici, or not, the garter stripe section is flat. I think, you can definitely see that. So the stripes are the same, 2 rows each of each color, but very different texture from one section to the next. And this, let's see if I can get the whole thing to show to a certain degree. There we go, a halo. Maybe if I hold it up like this the whole time, it'll be helpful. Oh, it kind of is, actually. Maybe I look like a pharaoh? Not sure. Okay, so you can see the 3 semicircles. You can see the garter stitch sections that join them, and also the garter stitch sections on the end that create the border. And so the garter stitch sections are section 2, or part 2 of the first clue. And then part 3, which I just finished, literally like 10 minutes ago, is this, well, I was going to say it's a border, but all of the stitches on it are still live. So this could very well be the middle of the piece, or it could turn out to be a border of some kind. Who knows? Right now it feels like a border, even though perhaps it's not. But see, adjusting my seats here. There. This is the section which he's calling bubbles. And they are bubbles. And I don't know how well I can make you believe that when this is like this. But yeah, you can kind of see it. They bulge out a bit. And I'm pushing them through. It's like a little poppet thing that my nieces play with. Maybe you know what I'm talking about, where they've got like, I don't know, a unicorn head, and it's filled with all little things that you pop, and strangely satisfying, as my nieces like to say. And anyway, looks like that. It reminds me of that. And anyway, the bubbles keep going in and out, so you do actually, you can pop them back in and out. But anyway, it's the bubble section, and it was made with a really, really new and different construction for me, anyway. I was expecting it, when I read the pattern, for it to be more like, or something like the dip stitches from last year's shawl, which I just finished 2 weeks ago, so I was familiar with it. It was recent in my mind. However, it is kind of similar in that you, as you're knitting along, you go into a stitch 8 rows down, and you bring that up. But then you do this crazy thing. Can you see here how all of those stitches are loose? That's because after you knit into the stitch below, you let all of the stitches, you drop that stitch from that column, and you pull it, and it goes plunk, 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 which is a little scary at first. And in fact, my first one, I knit into the wrong column, and then I let the stitch go, and then it was going to keep on going, so I said, no. And I fixed that, thankfully. But there's a bit of danger there. This is a dangerous shawl if it comes to your sanity in that moment. But anyhow, yeah, it was a little scary at first, but then it became really fun to kind of like, once I knew that I was going into the right place and plunk, 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 pulling it apart, I really enjoyed that a lot. And I think when I do finish, so here's where I've done the 1 row of garter across. I've got to do 2 more, like I said. And at that point, maybe they will pop a little bit more because it'll pull things together a bit more tidy. But anyway, that's the basic construction of the shawl. And I wanted to talk about sort of my expectations going into this. What I thought might occur. And I mean, we're talking about Stephen West here, so it's never good to predict too much because he's going to surprise you. But I had noticed, certain things, like I said, with the dip stitch. As soon as I saw that in the pattern, I kind of thought, oh, this is how it's going to be. He likes that technique, and maybe using it again. Why not? But that wasn't actually in it. I thought, too, that I would see some things from the Color Popportunity socks that he did recently as, I think it was a mystery sock knit along. Yeah, it was a mystery sock knit along. So those were showing up all over Instagram. I'm going to put this on right now while I talk about it. And so, yeah, seeing all of the fun wiggles and worms that he put into those socks, I thought there'd be something of that in this. And maybe there still will, just not yet. But yeah, so those things have not shown up. Everything so far was not something that I imagined. Again, like I said, the 3 separate semicircles were a total surprise, as was the way in which they're connected, as were the bubbles. So I am shocked on all fronts. But I did actually get one thing kind of right. So, I'm going to hold this up here. I've got a mixture of stickers here. These are some from last year and this year. But if you look at the ones from this year and the shapes that are on them, I figured those were probably a bit of a clue. And I did expect to see something along these lines here, which clearly the semicircles, they kind of are like that. was going to say it's a C. It's not a C because it's not part of the word. It's just a shape. But that makes me wonder too. Let me get this in here a little better. It makes me wonder of these other shapes, which ones will also find their way into the pattern. Will there be some teardrops? Will there be some, chunky figure eights? Will there be, I don't know, maybe some, what else we got here? Some triangles. Anyway, who knows? Who knows? But I was using that for my inspiration in terms of my guessing, and I do think that I was perhaps right about that. I just didn't expect them to be on their own, like I said. Okay, so the I've gone off of my outline here. I've already told you what things surprised me, so let me talk before I get to my Clue 2 predictions, because we'll see what I get right and wrong. I'm sure it'll probably be mostly wrong, but I will tell you what I think is going to happen next. But before I do that, I want to say what the piece so far is making me feel, because you know me. I've always got poetry and music on the brain as well as knitting and things like that. So I'm always like sitting there and thinking, what is this like? What's it making me feel? What is it giving, as the kids say? And first and foremost, it was giving water. I said when I showed you the yarn last week, the lighting here, by the way, is not the best. Sorry. But I think you can still make out some of it. The where the colors change feels very Monet and very, very, very water lilies, right? And even now, looking at this, oh my gosh, when I see the bubbles over the garter between these little hills of semicircle, it's almost like the bridge over the water in Monet's water lilies, or one of many of his water paintings. So, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense right now. So yeah, I was getting water vibes. Now, of course, it's because of the colors I've chose in part, but then also because of just the waves and the swirls and the way that this all just kind of plays together. Yeah. So yeah, water was a big thing that I was feeling, and I should say too that I started this. I spent the past weekend in Florida, in St. Petersburg, and I was there, a couple of weeks after Hurricane Helene. And as I'm filming this right now, it is October 9th, and Hurricane Milton is expected to hit there this evening. So, and it's expected to be a bit worse. So, with that in mind, thinking about this place that I love, with lots of friends down there whom I love, and the hard times that are coming very, very soon. I was thinking about that as I was making this too. The swirls and the water. It was suggesting a bit of a storm to me. And with that in my head as I was making it, I think I started to say, I started this on the plane down there. I completed my first semicircle on the plane, and I completed the other two while I was down, and just finished all of the rest of it today, a few days after being back. But anyway, so as I was making it, it became a kind of a prayer shawl, not one that I would necessarily wear to pray, but one that while I was making it, just praying for and hoping for the well-being of the region and the people there whom I know and whom I don't. But anyhow, yeah, that's going to be part of this shawl's story. That's where it began, and that will always be a piece of it. In addition to that, though, I know that was more somber than I intended to be, but, that's the reality of our present moment. It was suggesting some other things to me, too, not just water. I was getting a sense, I had to look this up because I couldn't think of what it was called, this sort of Nordic, Celtic, swirly symbol with three swirls connected. Once I described that to Google and it came up, I discovered that it is called a triskelion, and I'll put a picture of it here. So, yeah, it's obviously not exactly that because, well, the circles are separated from one another. But if you look at this picture right here, where I have laid it out flat and allowed the circular shape to sort of settle, you can kind of see that if the center were completed, it could be that kind of a shape. So I wasn't completely off in thinking that. So it's got these sort of ancient life-giving fertility. Oh, I mean, I think the according to Wikipedia, the symbol, the three spirals are the spirals of birth, life, and death. So you got it all happening right there. It's all happening right here in this shawl. And yeah, so that's another thing. Now, another thing that I started to see as I was working with it, especially because of these arches, which, as I'm holding it now, they're stretching out. But as I made them, they were very, very rounded. And I was thinking they're very Romanesque. These are like Romanesque arches in a church or maybe an aqueduct, which brings us back to the water theme, doesn't it? So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the water theme is baked in the cake. It's not just a product of my imagination. But yeah, I'm getting aqueduct here from these major arches with smaller arches, bubbles on top of them. And anyway, yeah, it's fun to just sit with this and look at the colors and watch it develop and see where my imagination goes as I'm playing with it and making it grow. So I can't wait to see what comes next. And with that in mind, let me tell you what I suspect will happen. Now, if I happen to be right, you're going to think that I knew all along what the secrets are. I don't. As I will probably be wrong, you will know that I did not know what I was talking about. But I want you to see, I put this on 2 needles so that it would stretch out neatly. Otherwise, it would be all bunched up, and there'd be no point in showing me any of this because it would be such a mess. But yeah, I don't have 1 needle that's long enough. Anyhow, all the top border, everything above the bubbles, those are all live stitches. There are 360 something of them, I think. And obviously, I mean, he said to leave the yarn ready to go to pick up somewhere along this line. So it could just keep growing. Here's one edge. So let me see if I wish I could get this back. You can see the angle here, right? And it's growing. It's continued to grow so far diagonally along this edge. It's not exactly a triangular shawl yet, although of course it could be. There could be the possibility that we will come back to this bottom part and pick up stitches, and it could grow this way as well. Sorry, like I said, it's just hard to show this piece. It's a little wonky at the moment. But as the next section will, however it goes, start with these stitches, I kind of think that I kind of see it splitting in 2, like one side's gonna, if this is the whole thing right now, there'll be a piece going that way and a piece going that way. It won't just be a solid piece throughout, I think. So, yeah, I think that something's going to start in the middle here. And it will start to slant that way and continue to grow this way, maybe. And maybe that will fill in, because once it starts to go this way, he might add something in the middle here, in the way that the garter stitches fill in the middle space between the semicircles, or which now I just want to call them arches because that's what they look like to me. So that's what I think at the moment. However, I am not in the mind of Stephen West, and he is full of delights and surprises, so who knows what's going to happen. We will all know tomorrow when Clue 2 drops, and that's why I had to rush to get this video done today and to do it here at school while I had some time, even though I'm not completely done. So anyway, That's my prediction. And another thing that comes with Clue 2, he said that that will be at least one suggested place to insert a mohair dare. And I'm wondering if I'm going to do that. I love these colors as they are. I have some mohair at home to play with, some gray, some yellow, and one that's kind of a multicolored one. Maybe it would sit well on top of this and just make it multi-multi. Or it might just make it all brown once it's all mixed together. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But for the moment, I'm so enchanted by these colors that I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't need anything to make anything pop because it's kind of popping already. Okay. That brings us to the end of this piece. So I'll just put that there for a moment. I want to say a little bit more, and then I'll let you go. You'll be dismissed early today for good behavior. Recommendations. I would like to recommend two things to you. One is a book that I listened to, an audiobook that I listened to recently, and one is a show. The book is The Devil in the White City, written by Eric Larson. It's not new. It's about 20 years old, but it's new to me, and it's one that I'd kind of seen around for a long time. It was very popular, I remember, when it was newer. It seemed like a lot of people were reading it, and I was late to the show, but I highly, highly recommend it. It was a really fascinating tale about the Chicago Fair, the World's Fair of 1893, and what went into building that. And what went into building that was like basically creating a magnificent city in 2 years that took the talents of all of the greatest architects and landscape artists, and lots of famous people were brought their talents and skills to the creation of this, and the politics behind it, and how that all happened, and then what it gave to the culture afterwards, because it was like where alternating current, AC current, was used in bulk for the first time, and apparently played a part in why that became the standard type of current. There were lots of foods that were debuted there, shredded wheat, juicy fruit gum, things like that. Now those are like I want to say silly, not silly, but those are consequential things, but more it had to do with just the spirit of the moment that it brought to life and pushed forward. Now, alongside that, as America's best and brightest were gathering to create this place, some of our most evil and wicked people were gathering as well, because it was an opportunity it brought up hundreds of thousands of strangers to one place in a big city where many of them hadn't been before, and so unfortunately that made them very vulnerable, especially women. And so America's answer to Jack the Ripper, in fact, set up shop just down the street from the fair, and he is the devil part of the title, the devil in the White City. And the White City is the fair itself, so it was filled with buildings that were all painted white, so that during the day and in the evening, as when the sun changes, golden hour, et cetera, throughout the day, everything appeared a different color. It's fairly magnificent. But anyway, yeah, so there's this very, very incredibly dark and twisted story laid right next to the story of, the magnificence of the human spirit, for lack of a better term, and lots of names of people who and a time period that for me I didn't know a whole lot about, and a place I don't actually know that much about, because I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again, and some of you will yell at me through the screen, but I've never actually been to Chicago. I haven't, and I'm sure that I will one day. I want to, I just haven't yet. But yeah, it made me very interested to go, even though nothing of the fair is, very, very little of the fair is still there. There are some buildings, but most of it is built to be temporary, and it was brought down, most of it after 6 months, and then a lot of it, I'm not going to tell you the ending. You just have to read the book or listen to it. And anyhow, that's my book recommendation for you, something to listen to while you're knitting, And my show recommendation for you is that if you are in the New York area, you should come to see or hear, see and hear, my choir, Master Voices, production of George and Ira Gershwin's Strike Up the Band. We're going to be doing it at Carnegie Hall on October 29th. And if you come by for the next episode, which I plan to do this weekend, I want to do an episode on the shorts that I made, which you may remember. They're completed now, and they just deserve a whole episode of their own. But anyhow, I will perhaps try to sing a little bit for you. There's a song in this show, which, if you are a fan of this podcast, you will laugh very much. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's a yarny type of song, and it's very funny. And yeah, I'll tell you more about the show then too, but I want to say it here because if you are in the area and you are interested in going, then you should probably get your tickets soon. Like I said, October 29th, Master Voices, Carnegie Hall, Gershwins, Strike Up the Band. Fun fact, by the way. So if you can hear the traffic that's right outside of my window, this is Eldridge Street, I think, that's right out here. And right across the street from the school, there is a plaque, and it's been there forever, obviously, and, well, 100 years anyway. And I had never noticed it until, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, and I've been working here 18 years. So I only noticed it a couple of years ago, but it's a commemorative plaque letting the passerby know that Ira Gershwin was born here, right across the street, on the other side of this wall. How about that? And now I'm singing in one of his shows. How about that? All right. That's it for today. Like I said, it was going to be a short one, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you are doing the MKAL, then let me know how things are going for you. And when you look at your piece, what kinds of things do you see in it? Where does it take your imagination as you are making away? All right. Let me know. I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.